Welcome to Afros and Audio's Black History Month interview series. My name is Talib Jasir, founder and CEO of Afros and Audio Podcast Festival, the first two-day conference for and by Black independent podcast creatives and audio professionals. I'm excited to spotlight 28 outstanding indie podcast creatives who answered the call to be a part of this series. Today, my guest is Jamia Lewis. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this interview.
Awesome. Thank you. Jamia, tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll definitely get to the podcast, but let's learn something about you.
All right, I am a woman of many talents. I have a lot going on. Typically, I'm a teacher, so that's what I do career-wise. That's my profession. I have been in the classroom for about 16 years now, since 2006 in one capacity or another. 14 of those years have been with my own classroom. So I'm a social studies educator, very passionate about issues of justice and current events and how are we helping young people understand how to navigate in this world. And so that's professionally what I do, but also I'm very much into the art scene. So I attended the School for Creative and Performing Arts from the 4th grade through the 12th grade in Cincinnati, Ohio. And so I have a major background in the arts, love them dearly. They allow me to express the things that are on my heart that I feel deeply, and that might come out poetically, that might come out through song, that might come through acting, and through any one of those mediums. I get a lot of joy from being able to participate in things that allow me to be creative and to have that outlet. And I have a big family and friends that are very much like family that I include in that number. And so I'm blessed indeed.
Awesome. Thank you. That's really cool information about you. And talk about your podcast. You talked about a lot of creative avenues that you have and outlets, and you chose podcasting as one of those. So definitely talk about your podcast and then let us know why you chose podcasting as a medium.
All right. It didn't start off that way. It really started as a small seed. In 2011, I got laid off. And in between that time and teaching, we call that a reduction in force, just due to budget cuts. And in the midst of that, I had seen someone do this 100-day gratitude challenge on Twitter. And so I thought, okay, that sounds like something I need to do just to help myself stay positive through this experience. And so I did that. And then a short time later, a couple years later, I felt prompted to do it again after going through some hard things, dealing with a breakup at that point in time and the aftermath of it, I should say. And I really needed something to help pull me up, pull my spirits up. And so this time I did it on Facebook, and I would post one thing every day for 100 days, just something that I was thankful for. And sometimes it was something real deep. Sometimes it was just something small. I'm glad it's Friday, or I'm glad for chocolate, or something like that. And so in the process of doing that, what was different about doing it on Facebook was eventually people started to pay attention. You do one thing consistently enough, one small thing, you start to gain some kind of traction. And even though that wasn't why I started it, that was something that helped to fuel me and to keep me wanting to keep going with it. And so by the end of that time frame, I just noticed how much better I felt. I had a different perspective on things, and I was kind of out of the hardness of that place I was in before that started. So fast forward some years, that was still just this desire to be grateful for things and thinking about that. That was still just a way that I was moving and something that I thought about frequently. And I wanted to, in the start of 2016, so when Periscope was a thing, it ain't a thing no more, it's gone, but it's been laid to rest. But when Periscope was a thing, I had thought maybe I really wanted to hold on to some of the progress that I had made over in the years between, I think that was 2013, I said when I did it on Facebook. So between then and to 2016, I'm really in a good place. I want to hold on to this. How do I kind of cement this for myself? It's okay. I'm just going to share one thing that I'm thankful for on Periscope a day. And I didn't have any goals for an audience or anything like that, even though I thought maybe some people would pay attention. In those first couple of weeks, it was really just my close friends that are like family who were even interested in what I was saying. But over time, it started to build and it turned into something. And I really feel like it turned into this ministry that the Lord just handed me, like, here you go. Because I started to get more ideas. Then I started to do themed series. Okay, this is what we're going to be talking about this time frame. And the whole premise of me getting on there was to really be genuine about what it looked like to be still seeking God in the midst of life's difficulties. So even if I had a bad day or something, I feel like being thankful, even in light of those feelings, like how do you still persevere and push through? And I definitely went through some things that year that I shared in that medium that were making that commitment to say, I'm gonna be on here every day. It really forced me to process those things like in real time. And then doing that with an audience. So it's not like I told all my business on there, because I didn't do that. I'm also a very private person, but things that I thought would resonate with other people, and then just being as honest as I could, because that I didn't want to be disingenuous with what I was sharing and give some sort of cliche that was not going to be beneficial to anybody that was listening, because ain't nobody got time for that. Nobody's trying to hear that. So, and we can tell when something is just this like cookie cutter response to something. So I really wanted it to be something that was real. What does it look like to wrestle with these real questions of faith in the midst of all that can go wrong? So in making that commitment to be on there really helped to hold me together, but it also took a lot out of me. It's like just having something to say every day as it grew, as the year progressed. It's okay, this is a lot. And this is a level of exposure that I don't know that I want to continue with into the next year. And so I thought, okay, maybe another way to share is to do that through a podcast. And it was nearing the end of 2016 that I thought, okay, maybe I can do this in a podcast formation. I had went to a conference where Crystal Evans Hurst had spoken, and she talked about podcasting at that time and how it was a great time to get in on it because it was not as crowded as the blogging space. And so writing is something else that I enjoy doing. And I had been trying to start a blog for years. It's like I'm always trying to start some new project or something like that. And so I thought, okay, maybe that's good because it's easier for me to talk things out than to write things out, even though I enjoy writing. I just don't enjoy the process of writing. It's hard. It's much easier to talk things out. And so that was where the idea came. Oh, I need to do a podcast, but we're in 2023 now. And I'm like, just getting off the ground. Yeah, there's definitely a story for all of the in between, but I feel I don't want to be in front of people just sharing whatever. I would like for it to be meaningful and to come from a real place. And sometimes you can't speak. And if you can't speak, keep your mouth shut. Nobody need to hear, at least for me, in terms of what I like to listen to. I want there to be value attached to. That's a whole different story. Because sometimes there is value in the rambling and things like that. Just depends on what people are looking for. Yeah.
That's really deep. I appreciate all that context. And I do absolutely agree with you. And it's true for everything in life, really. When you're working through a representative, that representative doesn't last.
Right.
But starting from a space of authenticity and genuineness and just being true to self, period. You can sustain that. You can sustain a facade. You can. People do it all the time. But it's much more challenging. So that's great. That's great to hear that from you. What did you decide? And again, definitely want to get to your podcast, meaning tell people the title and what the description and that sort of thing is. But also, when you decided to move from Periscope and then years later, you then went into podcasting, what did you decide as far as your formatting and your length and all that kind of stuff, and being more intentional around your audience, I would assume, this time around?
This time around, there's been a clearer focus on who I'm talking to, which ironically, with that clearer focus, I still feel like there are people who are outside of that clear target that I have who benefit from it and who listen as well. So that's some of the feedback that I've gotten. So my specific focus is like just women who are pretty close to like where I am. So age range between 30 and 50 years old, women of faith who have lived enough life to know like they don't have to pretend to have it all together. Like, so that's who my target audience is. And I'm trying to think, what was the other part of the question that you asked?
I'm still waiting for you to drop the name of your podcast.
Okay, Okay, I'm sorry. All right, it's called the Thanksgivers podcast. All right, Thanksgivers podcast. And so the premise being, I wanted a name to call the people who would decide to be in community with me with this, because there is that element of it too. I could keep a gratitude journal if I wanted to, but that's not enough for me. Thrive off of being able to have that connection with others who are moving towards the same goal and having that communal aspect. And I thought, if we're striving together to be intentional about being grateful, these are the Thanksgivers that are with me in this.
Awesome. Awesome. So you're speaking about community, and how did you curate that for yourself? What does that look like for you and your podcast?
So for the podcast, okay, what does community look like? Again, it's people who resonate with the message. So even if they're not a part of the target audience, if they are someone, and this is broad in saying this, who knows pain, who understands that life is hard, we go through things. And so if you have a mindset of, I want to keep going in the midst of this, then there's something we can learn from each other. We don't have to share the same faith. We don't have to be the same gender. We don't have to share a number of different things, but everyone can resonate with, what is it to deal with hard circumstance in my life? How do I move beyond it? And I think people find hope and vulnerability when they are able to see it in other people, when people are willing to share the areas where they're vulnerable, because nobody has it all together. Like, we put up good fronts, like we really do. And when you can see, okay, they get it, like sharing successes doesn't really, it's hard to build community off of shared successes. But when you are talking about what you're learning from something, like what you might want to change about something, I think there's an opportunity there to build a stronger bond. And you're not presenting yourself as a know-it-all or somebody who has this thing all figured out.
Absolutely. You're right about that. We all don't have it all together at all by no stretch of the imagination. What's your engagement like with your audience? How do you facilitate that?
I enjoy doing that through Instagram. That is what I'm trying to do. And so I do lives on Instagram. That's how I've started off 2023. I'm just sharing in 1 minute or less. So I try to keep them pretty short, sharing something that I'm thankful for and asking for that in the comments. Beyond that, intentionally reaching out to connect with those that choose to share and are a part of that. And even as I get to know people, and so this is how it was on Periscope, like getting to know people, and as they shared more about themselves, just showing genuine care and interest in what they have going on. So I don't know how long, like I have a super small audience right now, so I don't know how long I'll be able to maintain that. But for now, for people that choose to engage with me, I'm available for that. I love doing that kind of stuff, checking up on people and seeing how they're doing. I also have plans to launch a community that is an online community through Mighty Networks that will be like a sub part of the podcast. So that's coming later this year.
That's awesome. So when it comes to the podcast, and how long has it been going on?
Okay, let's see. I recorded episodes, I'll say last year. So during 2022 is when I recorded the episodes for season 1. Now, are all of the episodes out there yet? No, all of the episodes are not out there yet. So I'm still working on editing. So I would say in terms of intentionally recording episodes for this iteration of what I'm doing now with this podcast, it's been about a year. It's been about a year in the works with that process.
Okay, that's great. And how would you say it's changed your life, your network, because of podcasting?
My network has definitely grown, and it's really cool to just see the growth and development of it. Because again, like for me, I take it back all the way to 2011, like it just starting with this, I just want to be grateful for something every day. Like I had no plan to find myself in this position years later. And it's really been a blessing. So connecting with the Black Podcasters Association has been like just a true gift. So finding people who I feel like there's a connection there. Like it's not just information out there. There's people who really want to help each other win and be successul with podcasting. So just finding a very supportive group of people in that and learning about tools and resources that I didn't know about, getting feedback. Like I shared my trailer there like in April of last year, thinking, I've done something here with this trailer. Like this sounds good. I got that feedback back. Oh, okay. Let me see what I need to change up based off the feedback. But I was thankful for that constructive criticism. And like it wasn't tearing me down. Those that listened pointed out what they thought I did well and what could maybe change and how to help it. And I do feel like I was able to create something better than what I initially had. So I feel like just the opportunity to elevate each other's work in that way as well is a gift. And I feel like there was another part of the question that you asked that I may not have answered. I don't know.
Yeah, if there was going from here as well.
Okay.
So that's great. And I'm very happy to hear that about your experience with the Black Podcast Association and that opportunity to improve and elevate what it is that we're working on. And that's amazing. I also wanted to bring it back to what you were saying, like you took it back to 2011 again. And it's so funny how everything, especially as creatives, I'm a creativist myself. I'm a writer and author and podcast producer and all things in between. And then a lot of times we can feel like all of our stuff is so disjointed. Like, what am I doing? I got this, I got that. And reading like The Alchemist, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book, but everything counts. Everything kind of matters inside of the trajectory, even if you can't see where it's going. What matters, right? So like your experience with Periscope has created the creative who can sit in front of a mic and talk. And so it all counts. And so I think that's really important for people, especially folks who are still trying to figure out their way or feeling the word that's coming up to me is shame, but shame overrides a whole lot of things. That's a surface word that has so much more underneath it. But just thinking about creatives and multi-hyphenated folks who are socializing, I'm supposed to be doing one thing and one thing only. Good, but we're creatives and we shouldn't have any limits on that. And so I just think it's really important that you were able to be full circle with it, but also you're not done. You're still going.
There's much that remains ahead for sure. And the message even changes like over time. I think anything that's growing, anything that's living, like it changes. And so being open to what is the change? What am I learning from this now? You really want to be open for that. You don't want to know the answer before you get started. You won't have the best journey that way.
Absolutely. No, I'm a life coach. So I work with a lot of people and I tell folks always stay in the question. If you're in a bad spot and you already have the answer, then the answer is you're screwed. So stay in the question, right? Stay in the question and be willing to see where the outcome can be and who you can lean on for support and how you can also lean on your own experience and your higher power, whatever that looks like. And so all of that's super important. I'm so glad you shared all of that. So you mentioned in the forum as well, and this is something that has come up, especially interviewing others and how expansive that allows for not only your own experience and finding relatability, but also expanding in a way that says, oh, now I have a different perspective. Now I've learned about someone else's experience that has helped me. So I wanted you to expand on that in a way that you've been doing your interviews. And so what would you say is like your biggest wins or takeaways from the guests that you've had so far?
Wow. Okay. My biggest wins and takeaways from my guests so far. The majority of my guests, my first season, are women that I know personally. And so the topic for me was season one is grief, gratitude and grief. Like, how is it that we grapple with these grievous circumstances that we deal with? And so for some of them, I was already aware of some of the situations that they have walked through and dealt with and how they handled that because these are friends of mine. And just that's also like part of the reason why the editing has been difficult because it's so heavy. Oh my gosh, I got to figure out how to make this kind of lighthearted too. Because you don't want it to be full that way of sadness. You still want to find room for light. But just definitely being able to benefit from hearing even parts of their stories that I did not know, that I wasn't privy to, and getting insight into how they made it out of dark times themselves. So whether that was losing a loved one, and for me, that's also what part of the holdup was, because I thought I was going to launch in 2021. And that just really shut down everything for a period of time. And so whether it's that type of grief, whether it is dealing with the grief of feeling rejection in some kind of way, or dealing with a breakup, a divorce, job loss, transition and moving into a different city, these are all topics that were addressed. And I think sometimes too, when you feel like you know somebody, you kind of have people in certain boxes and think, okay, I already know what this person is about. But I think just being able to see them outside of the lens that I normally see them and just seeing how strong they are and how resilient, and just looking at the lessons I can learn from their own challenges, like how can I apply those things to my life? And then share that with listeners so that they're able to pull from it, to pull whatever wisdom they can for it for themselves also.
That's great. I love that. And I love that you have been able to give a voice, a platform for folks that you know. I think that is the important part of podcasting, is that it does get to be intimate and personal while also being something that is relatable or interesting to people who you've never met a day in your life, people who choose you and your podcast because of the content that you create. I think that is so amazing. And I believe that, I'm sure that your guests were able to get some things off and out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was some of the feedback that I got from some of them, just being able for them, because either they hadn't shared the story before, so having an opportunity to share. And as you said, get it off their chest, get it out in that way, so to speak. That was something that I heard from several of them, that they benefited from the opportunity to share their story.
Absolutely. So thank you. This has been amazing. I do want two things from you. You're such a veteran in the content creation space. Don't take it away from yourself.
Okay.
That put in some work, right? And this is simply an extension of what you've been able to do. So I want you to talk to the folks. Is there any thoughts or tips or anything you want to say to someone who is fatigued, nervous, whatever it looks like?
Just start. Just do it. I like to joke with my friends and say I like the finer things in life, because I do. Like, I do like nice things. So my taste is real expensive, like in all types of areas. I can't tell you how many courses I have bought on podcasting, how much like equipment that I have bought that I don't know how to use. So expensive equipment that I couldn't figure out how to get working for me. Just so many things that I have tried that really have been obstacles in terms of me getting out here. Like, it's just been a part of what has slowed down me sharing. And I'm just choosing to believe that, well, it's going to be out at the right time. And that's just what I have to hold on to. But realizing, like, I don't have to go about this the expensive route. It's not going to be perfect right away. Because also struggling with that. I want it to be right. I don't want to get out here with anything and just that's not putting forth my best effort. I really want this to be the best that I can do. But we learn from what we do wrong, and you just got to get out there to figure out how you need to change it. I'm working with a student teacher this year, and I was sharing with them how every lesson, you plan a lesson, it never goes the way that you're thinking it's going to go the first time. But as the day goes on, if you're teaching the same course, you get better. Like, you figure out, okay, what do I need to change to make this flow better, to make this work right, for students to be able to gain more understanding? And I think podcasting is the same way. And that's a message for myself even right now too. Girl, go ahead and get the rest of these episodes out there, but just start. Don't let expenses hold you back. Yeah, don't let those things hold you back.
That's great advice. And I would offer to you that you definitely lean on your community for the support that you need to get those episodes out, because your guests deserve to be heard and your perspective as well. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, tell people where they can find you.
All right, you can find me on Instagram at the Thanksgivers podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at Miss Mia Writes. I have a one that's for the podcast, but that one is moving slow. So Miss Mia Writes is where I'm at on Twitter. And also my website, thanksgiverspodcast.com. You can reach out there as well. And can I share one more thing?
Absolutely.
Okay, so one more thing, and I'm just putting it out there just to be put out there, because I've been saying it in every space that I've been in recently. Like, this is in person though. So I have a dream one day to be a guest star on Abbott Elementary. I don't know for what role, for whatever. But like, that's it. Yeah, I'm just sharing it. I'm just putting it out there. I'm gonna put it out there as much as I can. Like, I'm dreaming again. I'm hopeful again about things, and that's just one of the things that I am hoping for. So I just decided everywhere I can, I'm going to share that, and hopefully that moves me in a direction of being able to see that come forth in my life.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I did see that and on the forum, and I'm so glad you brought it up, because I was like, that's okay. It's done. It's possible. It's possible. So yeah, definitely. And again, wherever we can support in that dream and connections, we got you. We got your back.
Thanks.
So yeah, I'm gonna close this out and I'll just ask you to stay right there for me. And appreciate so much your time. And I think this was a great discussion.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. So I want to give a big thanks to our Afros in Audio and Black podcast community for supporting our commitment for community and collaboration. If you'd like to join the Black Podcast Association, the link will be in the description below. And if you want to join us at the 5th Annual Afros in Audio Podcast Festival, visit bit.ly AFAU FAQ, which will also be in the description. Follow us on all social media channels at Afros in Audio. Everything Jamia said about where we can contact her will be in the description as well. I want to say thank you, Jamia, so much for being a part of Afros in Audio's first ever Black History Month interview series.
Yay.
All right. All right. Thank you. And we'll talk soon.